Hi, I'm Jay Powell. I'm the chair of the Federal Reserve, and I want you to know that the Federal Reserve is now on Instagram and Threads.
There's something missing from the Fed chair's list of social media platforms. X marks a troublesome spot for state and local government. Plus, trust, credibility, and verification seals. Is it Twitter blue or government gray? All of that coming up.
TFIC takes you deeper into the stories that are shaping the future of state and local government.
I think X.com could absolutely be a multi-billion-dollar bonanza.
Oh, X.
Yeah?
You will be the letter of the day?
Oh, you bet I will.
Final frontier. To boldly go where no man has gone before.
You're not Buzz Lightyear.
I'm Siri.
And I'm Google.
And I am Alexa.
Alexa seems so smart. I think we'd have a lot to talk about.
Pew, pew.
From government technology and governing, this is The Future in Context. I'm Paul Taylor.
And I am Ashley Silver.
Public agencies are thinking through some difficult choices and developing contingencies as one of the social media platforms they have come to rely on has changed in some significant ways. Ashley, I may be old school. I say Twitter. You say
X. And more than the name has changed. So in a stunning move, X abruptly removed the capability for the public to view tweets or posts without having a Twitter account, which vastly limits the ability for emergency management agencies to really disseminate critical traffic and weather information that could potentially impact hundreds traveling each day. So with over 361,000 followers on just one of their many X pages, the Washington State Department of Transportation has actually been using the platform effectively to engage with their community for over 10 years. The Washington State DOT Interactive Engagement Manager, Micah Linde, had a lot to say about the social media platform, formerly known as Twitter, completely axing this feature a few weeks ago.
It seems absurd to want to force people to be on a social media platform to get information. It seems like it's I wouldn't say public health, but it's a public service to get people information, especially in times of emergency, and it shouldn't be beholden to them being on a particular platform.
Has there been much blowback on this, and are there any viable alternatives?
Great questions. X actually began receiving criticism about the tweet accessibility changes and quietly reversed course, actually reinstating the ability to view tweets publicly by search engines, even if you don't have an X account, just weeks after the change was implemented. But there are still other glaring concerns for DOT agencies. As for alternatives, that is still a work in progress.
The responses to what we're putting out have changed and are different. They're definitely more negative than we used to get. We always get troll. If you're a government agency, you always get negativity a lot. But it used to be that Facebook was like the most toxic account or platform for us. And in a sense it still is, but Twitter is trying its damnedest to catch up with that, it seems like, because we get a lot more negativity from accounts that you're like, one, this is not a real account,
right?
So I don't care. But because they paid for Twitter Blue, all of a sudden their voice has been amplified, whether they're a real account or not, and so that's the main thing you see. So the feedback we're getting has gotten more, I would say, more negative on Twitter than it used to be. And I think that because of that, because a lot of the tone has turned negative, I know for sure it's turned people off to Twitter and they're not on there anymore. And so we're missing those people who were following us for the right reasons, because they're like, well, forget this. This is not worth my time, and I'll figure out the website or I'll try whatever other platforms that people are going to. We started using Threads because we stayed away from using whatever the other ones are, Mastodon and things. But I decided to try Threads because I figured if anybody was going to legitimately give Elon a run for his money, it would be Meta. Hasn't really worked out yet at this point. Just to give you an idea, I think we have around 8,100, 8,200 followers on Threads, and the Watch.Traffic Twitter account has like 361,000. So we still put stuff out on Threads, but it's just I don't think anything is going to be able to rise to what Twitter is. And it's too bad because Twitter is such a powerful tool for getting that information out. It's frustrating that they seem to be discounting how important they are to accounts like ours.
So there's a feeling of being locked in on a platform that no longer does what it once did. Are others feeling it too?
Yes. The Arizona DOT has also noticed the tide of X changes in the past few months and is leaning on various other communicative tools to ride the unpredictable wave.
ADOT actually hired 4 new positions that really were social media focused, and they stationed them a big wall with like 40 monitors where all the cameras, the highway cameras can be seen, things like that. So we have a PIO in there every day, weekends and holidays included, from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., a PIO. But that room is staffed 24/7 with our dispatchers. So the dispatchers there, we communicate these active events in a variety of ways. We have the overhead message boards. I'm sure you guys have them. So when there's a crash ahead or snow or dust storms, things like that, we can put information on those boards to give drivers and motorists information that way. We have our 511 system, which is you can dial 511. You can go to az511.gov, or you can use our AZ511 app. And that has all the real-time information that the dispatchers in our control room have. Whenever they hear about an event or an incident, they enter it into the system, and the public can see it. And then internally, our crews in the field, our maintenance guys and women, they use that to respond to those incidents, because not every car crash needs everything going to it, right? Some of them are fender benders, and some of them are multi-vehicle rollovers with semi-trucks. So the public can get real-time information about highway conditions that way too. When the PIOs are working, between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m., when a big thing happens, like a crash closes a highway, or we've got snow coming that closes highways, things like that, or dust storms, they push out news releases, they'll do media interviews, and they also push that information on social media, because that's where a lot of people are. And we have all these different ways to get information to the public.
It sounds like they're redoubling their efforts around internal capacities to get the word out around emergencies. Earlier, Mike from the Washington State Department of Transportation mentioned its work to explore other platforms. The immediate future looks maybe murky at best.
You're right. There are important questions here, and so far, too few answers. How will the future relationship between government agencies and X look? Will these agencies actually remain on the platform? Mike says yes, because leaving for greener pastures must involve at least one greener pasture. The problem is there are none.
I've heard a lot of people say that. Why don't you just stop using Twitter and come over to Mastodon? It's not that simple. I mean, nothing in government is that simple, but it's not that simple we have across all of our Twitter platforms well over 1 million followers, and to simply stop using that just isn't realistic, because we're still reaching people. And there, much as I hate to say it, there is no good alternative to what Twitter provides. There is no other platform that allows us to put out real-time information to people. That's not what Facebook's designed for, or Instagram, or pretty much anything else. And so that's just not realistic. I think if you already weren't getting a lot of value out of Twitter, you probably are looking to leave Twitter and try something else. And I know that they're an agency our size, that's not going to be the case, but a smaller agency, a small city or a small county or utility or something like that with a 1 or 2 person communications team, they're probably like, we'll just start using Facebook or whatever to get our information, because we were already getting crapped on Twitter, and now we're getting crapped on even more. So I got better things to do. So, I could totally see that. In Reno, that was definitely a big talk at the government communications thing about people, whether they wanted to leave or not. And to me, it's unfathomable.
Our colleague, Associate Editor Ben Miller, picked up on a similar vibe in talking with local government social media managers at a recent national conference.
There was a lot of, I think I would say, irritation at some of the changes that have happened, mostly over the changes to the verification process, which had been longstanding on Twitter, and governments across the country, across the world, had come to rely upon suddenly changed. The system was that you had a blue check mark. It was a non-paid feature. It was the only verification check mark on Twitter. And it was done by verification teams, essentially finding people that had a high profile and verifying that they are who they said they were. It happened on sort of an ad hoc basis. You could request it. I think some people got it automatically or Twitter reached out to them. But what changed after Elon Musk took over is that he wanted to make Twitter Blue a paid feature. It allows for a little bit more visibility on your tweets, but it does not mean that you are who you say you are anymore. Instead, they introduced a gray checkmark for government that is free, but they also slashed their verification teams, especially in government, as part of the changes to Twitter. Twitter laid off, famously, I think, more than half of its workforce shortly after Elon Musk took over, and that included a lot of the people who verified accounts. So you heard over and over again at this conference government social media professionals saying, we applied for the gray checkmark and we have yet to hear back. Angela Ramirez is a communication specialist with the city of Tampa, core to their social media team. Surprisingly, she was one of the only people at the conference who said that they received their gray check mark automatically.
Our blue check mark automatically turned into a gray check mark. The reason we decided to go for Twitter Blue was just to try to minimize the chance of there being confusion with an imposter account. My ideal for verification on Twitter would be for everyone that has a government agency to have a gray check mark. I think that that's a great option. I would love the features of Twitter Blue, the longer tweets, ability to edit a tweet. Those are great features, so that would be my ideal.
Ben, you also talked with a social media manager from the town of Collierville, Tennessee, I think it was, who was much less sanguine about blue and leaned heavily toward government gray.
Yeah, Jennifer Casey was of the mind that because Twitter Blue lacks a verification process, it's actually less valuable to government, because it's all about credibility. So if you have the gray check mark, that means somebody from Twitter has verified that you are who you say you are. If you have blue, maybe you have the edit button and the longer tweets, but people might look at that and say, oh, I've run into 15 bot accounts that have a blue check mark. Why should I believe that this is really the city's Twitter account?
One of the reasons that I really jumped on applying to get that gray check mark is because I have dealt with an imposter account before. So I know what sort of headache it can be and how damaging it could be.
They want people to know that they are who they say they are.
I think the gray is the best for us as government agencies. I didn't want us to have to pay for a blue check mark. And again, to me, that also doesn't show that you're completely credible because you're buying it. So I sort of had the stance of, I applied for the gray one. If I wasn't going to get it, we just weren't going to have one. And then if that meant eventually getting rid of Twitter because we didn't see it as a way that we could tell our messages and for people to trust us, to trust that we were who we were, then it wasn't worth our time.
They're monitoring how their constituents feel about this. Do they want them on Twitter? Do they need them on Twitter? Do they trust Twitter anymore? And those are all questions to consider when deciding what social media platforms to be on and whether it's worth paying people to staff those accounts and to manage them.
But the stakes for state and local government are really high as X continues to evolve. State and local agencies have spent years building followings that collectively are in the millions, and there is no portability from X to some other platform, even if there were viable options. They cannot take the followers with them. Ashley, thinking about what comes next, net it out for us.
Actually, the funny thing is, Paul, there are even more changes planned according to Musk that just keep coming. The first is X's block feature potentially going away, so you can no longer block those pesky trolls from your accounts. He actually wrote in a tweet that block is going to be deleted as a feature except for DMs. Back in August, he sent that over as a tweet, so that'll be an interesting development. Secondly, something that may eventually impact our team are future plans that change the current format of how news articles are seen on the platform. So rather than just a post showing the headline and summary text along with the header image and the preview card of a post as is happening now, X will only show the image with the link to the post. So if the publisher doesn't post any accompanying text with the link, users will only see the link and an image for the article. And then thirdly, there have also been brief discussions from Elon kind of insinuating X may no longer be a free site in the future. So we're all really just trying to keep our heads above water and riding the wave of changes, I believe.
Is there any consensus on what a tweet is called in an X world?
That is a good question. And depending on who you talk to, you get a variety of answers. So I particularly just call them posts now rather than tweets, or I try to, but I don't think it's a concrete either way, Paul.
Thanks, Ashley. Ben as well. We've got links to your stories on social media in the show notes. Ashley Silver and Ben Miller are part of our editorial and production team, as are Noel Nell, Aragon Item, Zoe Manzanotti, and Kaylee Tedrow. Our editor-in-chief is Kathleen Robinette.
You can listen and subscribe to The Future in Context for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, Audible, and now YouTube.
We're pretty excited about adding YouTube for a couple of reasons. It means another choice for you to listen and subscribe. Plus, we learned that Google Podcasts is going away at the end of the year. It's being morphed into YouTube in December. But we've beat them there. You can find TFIC on YouTube right now. There's even some eye candy with each episode. It's not much, but it's there. The links to our new home on YouTube, plus all the other podcast apps, are in the show notes. For Ashley Silver, I'm Paul Taylor. Thanks for listening. Stay in touch with the show at tfic.tech.